Hello, everyone. Welcome back for another week of Growing with My Fellow Growers. I'm your host, Jack Greenstock, joined as always by an amazing panel. I'm going to pass it over first to Brandon Rust, who will be joining us for the first hour of tonight's show.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Brandon Rust here. If you're not already familiar with me, you can find me on Instagram at rust.brandon. You can also check out my website, bokashiearthworks.net. Got a bunch of nutrients and microbes and amendments and stuff on there.
We are happy to have you back, as always. And Noah the Grower is also joining us for the first hour of the show.
How's it going, everybody? Yeah, I'm Noah the Grow on Instagram. You can find me there. Noah the Grow with two E's. And happy to see everybody.
Happy to have you back. It was cool checking out your garden a little bit before the show. Glad we got the audio and sound and stuff figured out so that way we could hear you and have you join us today for the show. And last and certainly not least, we also have the American one.
Hello, Jack. Thanks for hosting. Hello, panel, everyone in chat. I'm the American one. Most of you know me and know where to find me. I'll leave it at that. And it's always great to be here.
Always great to have you. We also have Spartan Grown, who's stuck in a little bit of traffic on his way home right now, but he will be joining us in a little bit. So maybe when the other guys drop out at about the hour point, we'll have Spartan join in, and maybe we'll do a little open panel because it is New Year's. I'm thinking maybe we do a little bit of Q&A, unless one of you guys has a topic you'd really like to discuss. Sometimes it's good to talk about New Year, new gear, whether it's equipment or genetics or clones or whatever it is, seeds, whatever new things that you're looking forward to in 2025, getting started or continuing the process that maybe you didn't get finished up in 2024. I know Brandon's got a lot of irons in the fire, so to speak, and everybody else on the panel stays pretty busy as well. So I guess I could pass it to Brandon Russ. What's the first thing on the agenda for 2025 coming down the Bokashi Earthworks camp?
I started a new company in North Dakota called Carbotech Technologies. It's a joint venture between Bokashi Earthworks and NASA Agricultural Technologies, and it's just a current ongoing project where we have a business proposal, like a 41-page business proposal that we put together, and we are applying for some ag grants through the FDA and for some other grants. And we're also applying for carbon tax credits through Q45 and the 8933 IRS tax code. And so with that, we're gonna like kind of revamp and add that into our business proposal, which will actually increase the valuation of what we're doing because we uh, everything that we do, including manufacturing microbes, actually qualifies under some of these tax codes. So that project is ongoing. I'm looking to raise like $5 million for the project. That's the biggest thing that I have going on. This year I'll be doing a big project internationally with Del Monte. Can't talk too much about that because I signed an NDA, but there's a bunch of stuff. Let's see. We have a like a trailer for two different television series that are going to be pitched to some of the streaming platforms. And then I also got the new dispensary and grow facility. We'll probably do our grand opening actually on 420. Just depends on how long it takes for us to get the license all transferred over, inspections and all that. But we're in the process. I'm in the process of building that out and finishing that. And um, yeah, that's most of the stuff off the top of my head that I can think of.
I'll say I'm rarely in the position to give you any advice. However, when it comes to the streaming service deals, I would be very not hesitant or skeptical, but look over your contracts if you happen to deal with the big red
Um,
N, because Netflix is notorious for stringing people along, getting all of your information, intellectual property, etc., saying they're going to make the show, and then at the last second pulling funding and dropping the show. So,
oh yeah, so usually the way that this works is, I'd be looking at a contract, and fortunately for me, because I've been working with Yellow Wolf's mom and also his attorney, um, Wayne is, he knows everything about entertainment um, contracts and those types of contracts. He actually ran Capitol Records. He was the president of Capitol Records for a really long time as well. So he told me that he'd be willing to help out if when those contracts if they come up, or when they come up. So I just have to make sure we're covered. But there's a lot of different streaming platforms. One of the things is like Hulu's owned by Disney, and they just started doing cannabis related like shows, and so all the other streaming services are kind of hopping on board. So there's a lot of opportunity.
Yeah, I followed one of the shows that was recently on Hulu. My wife actually does some work with the company, and funny enough, one of the dispensaries that was on one of these Hulu shows wasn't paying their bills, so she had to chase down some money from a couple of those locations. But it is always interesting, the bigger industry, moving on from home growing into the dispensaries and delivery services and grow operations and all that stuff at the larger scale. I think it's the dream for a lot of people. So I'm glad that you've made it to that level and you're
Oh no,
doing it.
no, it's not large scale at all, bro. My facility is probably like 3,000 square feet total. So
Well,
it's all micro, bro. We went hella small because we found a place that was only like it's less than $1,500 a month, and it had 7 offices in it. It had a warehouse space, it had a backyard, additional storage, and a front part of it with a sectionalized thing so people can check in, and it was less than $1,500 a month, and so I'll be able to set up six, 10. I'll only have 14 lights for flowering, and I'm gonna have a mom room that's just moms growing, and I'll have a nursery. I've got space to put up my little tissue culture, the little one that I got for free, that little portable one, in a little 8x4 tent in the warehouse section, and have a nursery. So it's like it's all micro. And the reason why we did that is because it's split between me and my partners. And so our overhead is super low. And so between the four of us, it's like we can make a lot of money out of there. Plus, we'll have a hemp license. And so we're going to be, hunting through a bunch of different breeders' work over the course of the year, doing the Battle of the Breeders, which is essentially we have a 4 light room that's going to be a perpetual pheno hunting room. And the way that we're going to do that is we're going to do one light will be dedicated to a single breeder and one variety under that light, but 9 phenos. So it's like 9 plants under 1,000 watt light, and maybe it's like a blueberry strain from Humboldt or something like that. And then every single run, what we do is we make a flight like they do for beer, and there's going to be 9 different phenos in that flight. You come into the dispensary, it'll be all branded, co-packaged with the different breeder, have information on there. And we're also going to turn that into a little series too on YouTube. So we're going to have that professionally produced, and we'll do, education and history and stuff like that. And then with the goal of also trying to sell that to a streaming service, since I already have those connections now.
yeah, it's really nice to have those connections and always good to have people that can look through the contracts, make sure you're not getting screwed over or cut out or anything unnecessarily, because that does tend to happen, unfortunately, in entertainment generally, and not just in the cannabis space, but across the board, music, Hollywood, TV, whatever. And so, good to avoid those pitfalls if and when you can. The thing that I was mainly referring to, going back to you going up to a larger scale, I meant like from compared to a home grow, like the thousands of square feet and $1,500 a month rent is like, that's more than some people's rent out there in their home grows and stuff like that. And in the commercial side, I understand it's completely micro compared to, we've got thousands of, people have acres and hectares, and there's people that have acres of greenhouses out here. And it's just crazy the amount of scale that has taken place in the legal cannabis industry. However, with that, I think comes a lot of boof and, low quality mids or worse. And so I'm
Wow.
happy people like you and others are keeping it craft even at
I,
the commercial quote unquote scale. Just commercial in the fact that you're selling it at a dispensary and you're growing it for more than just yourself. So a lot of people though,
it makes it like worthwhile going small, but also being vertically integrated because you have low overhead. You don't have a whole lot of labor. It's a lot easier to manage, especially when you have everything automated, and then everything's being sold in-house. So there's no middleman. Like there's nobody profiting off of our work other than ourselves. And
it's like the good
so,
old days, man. That's how it should be. Farmers market
yeah,
style. Grow it and have the growers sell it. You know,
yep.
cut out the middleman, keep it as fresh as possible, keep it as clean as possible, keep the cost down as much as possible, and allow people to have access to good quality at the
We don't have to
lowest possible price.
transport it. Like we when you get to do that, you can eliminate so many logistical problems. Like what happens when that's no longer in your possession and it goes through a transport company, or how long does it sit on a dispensary shelves, or all those different things. We can be in control of all.
Well, and like I'll pass it to Noah Vigroa for a minute and ask, like, Noah, you've kind of have an operation where you were hooking up medical patients, and I don't know if the state of things is where it was allowed to go out to just adult use or whatever they want to call it in whatever state. But I know you're growing, a little bit more than just your own needs. And so, like Brandon, it being vertically integrated, so to speak, on that scale, you're growing it, drying it, packaging it, and distributing it out to whoever needed it. And in that process, I'm curious to hear what you would think about maybe the benefits of it, your timelines on how quick it would go from harvest to the end user's hands, and if you'd ever consider like what some of the drawbacks might be of not having that vertical integration, like if you were to try and sell it through a shop or something else like that, where it goes into somebody else's hands, whether it's a delivery service or a storefront or something else.
That's interesting. I've had a few people come at me and ask me, hey, do you want to do this? Or do you want to just set up a, you know what I mean, like a warehouse or something and get something going? It's just, to me, I just am having a lot of fun doing what I do. And then as far as like how long it takes, it's all, strain dependent. As I've said, like I really respected that Brandon said last time that he didn't do the microscope thing because I have microscopes. I never use that. I just go off the hairs and different things from doing it myself personally. And when I say that, sometimes people are like, "Oh, you don't look at the trichomes." I'm like, "Dude, no. I just know by looking at the buds and just because I've been doing this, and I do it every day. It's all I do really." So, but it's so I just go off 9 weeks, and then like literally like that last harvest, you know what I mean? Like a strain that I normally take it 9 weeks. I was like, oh shoot. I pulled a couple top nugs off, got it out in the light, out of the room, looking at it. I'm like, this, there's still, hairs, there's still different things that I'm looking at. I can just tell from that strain that, oh yeah, that needs a little bit longer. So I left that plant in there for another like 5, 6 days. So it just depends, you know what I mean? Like how long you're gonna veg for, how many lights excuse me, how many plants you're going to put under one light. Are they going to be, I like to do sometimes like 4 or 5s if the plant's just kind of like not something that grows crazy, like Gorilla Glue 4, or just like different plants that kind of stretch out and fill up a light. Different little like, indicas, you can put more of them underneath the light. So there's so much stuff that goes into it.
Have you ever considered getting your stuff put into a shop or a delivery service type
I have,
environment where
I
somebody
have,
else's hands were taking care of it before
I
it got to the end
have,
user?
I have, but it's just man, I don't know. So I had some buddies that I knew a couple different growers that were in Oklahoma. They one guy that moved there, I think 2019, 2020, and like they just told me like the market just like completely changed. Then I just know what the market is here, and like I mean, dude, yeah, even I mean, either you're charging an absorbent amount or it's just and then I have friends who do it too, and like they'll tell me like, oh hey, so like I know what weed they're selling in the rec stores around here, and I go and look at it, I'm like, wow, man, that stuff's going for like 280, 300 an ounce, and they're like, oh yeah, but we're getting like 100 an ounce. I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, dude, we're lucky to get 100 an ounce. It's like he said that a lot of my buddies are like normally like the dispensaries are like making like over 2/3, 3/4 sometimes. So it's just like man, especially anybody who's had to spend a lot of time working in a grow room, has to do all the things you have to do yourself, hauling all the water, the trimming, and then obviously running into like problems, like just to give it away for so little, and then watch somebody who's really not, I mean, I get it, that's the law and that's the way it's set up, but it just sometimes to me the logistics aren't there, so.
I'm with you. I think it's disheartening to have to hand it over to somebody. If I think the minimum you see is at least 100%. They're like doubling the money, but at the same token, I understand like my wife's working in the industry. I've worked in the industry. there's costs to pay employees, there's costs for the storefront, there's cost for security, and banking is kind of funky depending on where you're at it. There's still not really any good federal banking laws here in the US. So there's a lot of hoops to jump through and regulation and BS. So they kind of have to jack the prices up to stay in business because so many of them aren't staying in business. So it is kind of a tough gig to try and do it at a more commercialized scale. I think Brandon's on the right track talking about keeping low overhead, not too many people sort of involved, from employees to investors, et cetera. You know everyone who's there and you keep good quality people, keep the headcount low, keep the cost low. Uh, the rent that he talked about is extremely fair when you're talking about commercial cannabis production and what you're able to produce in those types of spaces, especially considering electrical costs in Oklahoma are not extremely high like some of the other parts of the country, maybe or in other countries generally. So I think that you have the opportunity to put product out there at a competitive price and still make, a decent profit. It's not like it once was. It's not the like we were talking, I think last episode of the year, last year, we were talking about the golden era when people were getting six, $7,000 a pound. That's a lot bigger numbers than what Noah was talking about with those ounces. And, you know, it goes a long way for the grower to have that extra leeway in profit margin. They got a little bit more uh maybe lax in their you know, technique in some regards. I think some people got a little bit more experimental, and that's where I think we found some of the cooler, more interesting shit. But a lot of people now it's just a race to the bottom for the most part. Who's got the, you know, smokable stuff at the lowest possible price? And so there's also this whole issue of people are now spraying terpenes and other things, and this has been going on for since I was in middle school, so it's nothing new. But yeah, there's just variances in quality, um, such a huge range in production. Like if you're in California or a legal state, Oregon, many of the other states where, you know, even if there weren't tons of licenses, the licenses were big enough, the productions were big enough, and the black market never stopped. So there's overproduction in some regard. So supply demand, price is going to go way down. And so that makes things a lot more difficult. I'm curious, Tao, you've been in a few different markets now, and I know you've at times, grown for more than just yourself, to put it in layman's terms, I guess. And I'm curious what your thoughts are on kind of the state of the market, growing for yourself, getting into the production mindset if you ever wanted to go bigger, or when you have kind of done more of the production style, how
Yeah,
to
well,
think about that.
I was always afraid to get busted and go to jail. So I always kept it pretty small. And now that it's legal, I still have that kind of same mindset. And I'm not looking to really exploit cannabis for the money. I think everybody should have the government should just supply everyone with cannabis, in my opinion, with clean, good cannabis too, not boof. But that's a different story. Yeah,
Do
definitely.
you think they
The
could?
heyday is
Let's be
the
honest.
heyday.
Let's be honest. Do you think they could? Look at the DMV. Look at any other
Definitely.
government program. We
Yeah,
never
no,
do a particularly great job of anything with the government.
I
yeah,
Uh,
think
the
when it comes
government.
to government, less government is good government in pretty much all situations. So I wouldn't
No
want
doubt.
government being involved in. I don't want them involved in what I'm
Production
good
or
at.
distribution.
Yeah,
Or even lawmaking, but yeah, we have no choice.
or official governmental
Governing,
agencies, I should say, because we are the government. It's government of the people.
right?
And oftentimes I think we get distracted by language and how we word things, but I think it's the governmental agencies that are put in place. Um, they could be downscaled, in my opinion.
That's about to happen.
That's according to the old plans. Yeah.
DOGE, right? Department of Government Efficiencies or whatever. But to get back onto
Yeah, but
the
here's the irony in that, right? So you convince a bunch of people who are like less government is good government. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna create a new governmental department to regulate the rest of government. It's kind of an oxymoron, and I think that everybody's just kind of being fooled. You know what I mean? They're gonna do this, and they're gonna make more governmental regulations in the
No, that
process.
it's Democrat or Republican. They all want to take your money and do some different stuff with it. Like yeah.
I guess
Yeah,
So
we'll have to wait and see.
I
We'll
think
have to
we
wait
had a
and see.
revolution for like a 3% tax.
yeah,
That was literally the start of our
but
country. But things have come a long
Yeah.
way. Relative inflation, like dollars back then were worth, you know, a lot,
All right. Well,
technically less.
Well, I
my
think all that is
optimism
made up too.
my
So
optimism is
I agree with that.
my optimism is that this new extra newly formed government agency will delete a couple at least of the bogus agencies, and if not significantly reduce waste, at least make it a lot less. So
Let's
hopefully,
just be honest. Trump administration legalized cannabis with the hemp farm bill. That's just a straight up truth. Cookies is selling in every state under hemp because it's THC,
why we
A,
didn't
hey,
our
not
hemp license.
THC. Yeah, everybody should have a hemp license because that allows you to operate. That's how I can sell seeds and clones or whatever in all 50 states legally. The hemp farm bill in 20, I think it was 18, legalized cannabis in the US in a very large regard. There's like it's such a small margin that you can fall under cannabis outside the hemp farm bill because it has to be literally smoked or heated up or left around for so long that the THCA has converted to a high enough percentage of THC, which almost never happens. So, but all of that fun technicalities and loopholes aside, Tal, what
so
do you think
yeah,
about producing
what I
for
was
the larger
the
market other than yourself and
the
where the prices have gone?
the heyday is over. You're not going to get another $500 an ounce unless you're like the Tiffany's, which you can be. I'm sure there's someone getting $500 an ounce from like the rappers or that dude that had that show, the most expensive, shit like that. But the easy money's over. But yeah, I'll always have plans if I'm alive, no matter what. I don't care if I make. Yeah, my goal was never to make money. My goal was to have the best weed to smoke, and it probably still whatever I can make when I get, if I have what I want, it's probably still the best weed I could get. So yeah, I don't know. If your goal is to make money, you better do it efficiently. And Brandon has the right idea. Anytime you got to hand it off to someone else, that's it. You lose because first off, you don't have control of their storage, so it's going to get probably dried out to nothing, and God knows how long it will sit on the shelf. But if you have full from cultivation to sale to retail, you're golden because then you have control. You can keep it good and keep everybody happy. But
Unless
yeah,
you
other than
are
that,
a brand that rhymes with rookies, because I got some stuff from them gifted to me from them. They grew it, they packaged it, they distributed it at their biggest storefront, their flagship storefront, and it came to me with powdery mildew. It was the yeah, my wife got fucking sick from it and that shit. So yeah, I'll never fuck with the cookies. It was Cookies Melrose. Fuck them. And they're shitty ass powdery mildew. And it went through all the California testing. So even with the mold testing, you can still get moldy shit on shelves. And they're actually kind of notorious. They've sold clones with that, and lots of other people have reported similar, as well as like bugs. But they don't grow all their own stuff. They outsource a shit ton of their stuff. So it's not always vertically integrated, but always interesting when people claim that they are, and then they have issues, and they try to point the finger at somebody else. So it's nice when it's actually vertically integrated with like Brandon or Tao or Noah or any of the people on the panel that you'd get product from. But I guess speaking with the theme of the new year, do you guys have any new seeds or genetics, clones that maybe you're looking to get your hands on, seeds you're looking to pop, or things that you've started recently that you're looking forward to in 25?
I've got some cool stuff that I'm working on right now. I crossed my Black Lime Reserve into the ChemD, so I use my BLR male, and I've got all those clones. I took all the clones from the moms, and I've sexed everything, and I also have more Mac 1 times Starfighter, and those will all go into beds at the end of the month.
How about you, Noah, the grower? Anything new and exciting on the agenda for 25?
Well, I'm always looking around for different stuff, and I got a bunch of stuff I got to go through myself. I just recently added a new plant, permanent marker, and I go through so many strains, and then it's tough because you get one and it'll be hype and you don't know. But permanent marker, I'm definitely running it again. Um,
I really
I
like that one too.
Yeah, I was I'm genuinely
Really good.
shocked. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Like I was like, this is gonna be a hype one, but man,
it's not like the stuff that you typically see on the market. It really does smell like permanent marker.
Yeah, it's awesome. It has a very unique smell. It has a very unique just everything. And my first time running it, I loved it, and I'm gonna keep. I got another one in there that I'm pulling down probably about 3 weeks ish to a month. Who knows? But and then I have more, clones backlogged of it, and so because if I didn't. The first thing for me is I want the thing it to be stable because I don't want my room to herm. So if I see anything where I think it's going to herm on me, I immediately pull it out. But it looks strong, stable. I didn't see any nanners. I didn't see nothing. So I'm pleasantly surprised about that. And then I'm just constantly looking for new stuff. One of my good friends of mine, he's a grower, and he just recently got I forget the name of it, but I know it was Oreos crossed with like peanut butter or something. And he said it's really good, but the Oreos plant was like pretty good, but it just wasn't strong, stable enough. It threw nanners both times I ran it, so I cut that. And I don't know if this other one's going to be a little bit more stable, but yeah, stability is a big one for me. Once you have a whole room herm out on you, you figure it out pretty quick how important that is. So
That's actually, speaking of like it being tougher times for growers, that has shut multiple grows down. Unfortunately, I've seen people say, I ran X breeder and it hermed and it seeded my whole room and I needed that run to keep going and it caused them to shut down and now they're out of the game. So it's sad to, so you got to be very diligent and like Noah, keep your eyes out, especially on new stuff and really hunt for stability as much as you can find it. Um, it is rarer and more rare nowadays. Speaking of what I'm popping next, it'll be from Spartan Grown's Project V, the Vortex F2. The original Vortex never really had any issues. Sub was pretty notorious for having very stable regular seed, and Spartan just kind of selected a couple males and females and open pollinated. He'll be here in a little bit, so I'm sure maybe speaking about him, he'll arrive in a little bit. But yeah, I'm
I,
excited for those because I've always liked Subcool's gear. It's always got me super stoned. Good flavor, usually good yields, good smell, good effects. So I can't really
I
complain.
I just wanted to say something really quick. That that's a sobering point that you just made, and it's a point that I tell a lot of growers when they talk to me. That is one of the cold realities of being a grower is you're literally as good as your current harvest. You know what I'm saying? And literally, I just don't think people understand if you're a grower and that's what you're really leaning towards, and like that's what is very important to you, how crucial each harvest is. And if you've lost a harvest, then you know what I'm talking about. And so, like, I don't take anything lightly in my grow room ever because I know that you're only as good as your most recent harvest. That's it. That is the cold reality of it. And that's a bummer that happened to those people, but that's part of the farming game. That's just part of it.
It happens in actual farming. It could be a hailstorm and they couldn't afford insurance that year for the crop.
Absolutely.
It could have been an early freeze that took out a majority of the crop. It could have been a new pest that never was in that area that just came out of nowhere and eviscerates the crop. So farming, gardening, shit's tough, but it's worth the effort, I think, to get like Tao said, growing for the ultimately the best weed that you can get, which I think is growing your own. You get to pick the breeder, find the best genetics, hunt for them, hang on to them, or continually get to smoke brand new shit that your body's never been exposed to. So it usually gets you really good the first several times. And even after that, if you don't like it, you can gift it away to your friends and family and hook them up with stuff that they've never seen or smelled or tried before. And they'll usually find at least one person who falls in love with it. So it's one of the beauties and fun things about popping new things. But I will, yeah, caution people. Always, especially in the first few weeks of flower, be extremely diligent, especially with new genetics. Going into the new year, that's not a good way to start. It's kind of a kick to the nuts. And that's why I've been delaying. I knew I was going to be traveling and I didn't want to have plant sitters looking after my crop. I'm not even like needing on it for, you know, financial or medicinal reasons. I just want to, I'm sick and tired of doing like an 8 out of 10 when I know I can do 9 and 10 out of 10 almost. And just slacking on it a few times and like not hitting the home run and having an 8 out of 10 grow when I know I could do a 9 is disappointing to the point that I was like, I'm not going to do it again until I can get a proper run set up. And like that's going to be very soon because I'm not traveling for the next few months. I actually will be able to, I've got new soil thanks to Resurrection Prophet and he hooked me up with some of my favorite soil brand new, so I don't have to re-amend anything, start fresh. And I think that's a good place to start. I think my soil got a little out of balance without doing any testing over years of re-amending and just kind of a simple re-amendment plan. Eventually, you should probably soil test, and my garden is probably proof of that because the first several runs were great and several re-amendments were great, but years in, I don't know, 10, 12, 13, and there's people out there that, and they're probably testing. Brandon and others, the homeboy in Las Vegas, the uh, Green something Gardens, he's a former UFC fighter.
That's Steve Cantwell,
Steve Cantwell, yeah.
Green Life Productions.
Green Life Productions, they're like, I think 40th cycle in some of their beds. And
Yeah,
by all accounts, flower is really fire. It looks great. And everybody I've see trying it seems to enjoy it. So shout out to them.
yeah, they grow good flower. They also they test everything too, though, so they amend their beds. I think heavily in the very beginning.
That I think is one of the best ways, or my preferred ways of growing in soil, is to get a good soil set up and just give it water as much as you can for the rest of the run. Maybe microbes here and there, but pretty much just water only. I don't like to give nutrients, quote unquote. I'd rather try and get as much or as close to a living soil as I can, where even if it's a modified growing mix, um, there's a lot more life in there than you would see in a fertigated, um, you know, amendment where people are top feeding or relying on some sort of fertilizer within peat or even cocoa, like the Coco Loco and Fox Farm and stuff like that, where it tends to run out, and then it's tough to guesstimate and balance. You usually get onto their bottles or some other dry amendment. Um, Curious if you guys had good luck with any of the organic. I know, I think I saw Tao just unmute, so I'll let you take
Yeah,
the mic.
I got some. I started up. Well, I just wet some seeds for saying what's going to happen in 2025. The Grow Room 424 and boys sent me a whole bunch of different stuff, and so they were one or two seeds of each. So I got one seed each of I got they were labeled Super Skunk, BCN Critical XXL Fast, Northern Lights, OG Kush. Oh shit, there's two other ones that I forget right now. But I got six started. I put my tent back up. I mean, I moved and I have some auto flowers growing, but I didn't want to start anything that I wanted to really look at until I got my place in a better, my grow in a better situation. And speaking of that, I ordered the humidifier that Brandon Russ recommended that goes into a 5 gallon jug. So that's going to show up. So everything's going to get a lot tighter in a little while. And um, so yeah, I plan on doing at least those six. Then I'm gonna go through some of my shit. I think I'm gonna, yeah, I'm not gonna say anything because I might not do it, but I have a couple things that I want to do and a couple things, definitely a ton of seeds that I want to start. But I'm gonna try and use seeds that I'm not, and all those are feminized seed, by the way. And I have other seeds that I want to try, but I want to make sure the grow room is in a good spot before I do anything that I really want to look at or maybe keep. But that being said, if anything's exceptional, I'm going to take cuttings probably anyway. If anything's exceptional, I'll just keep it anyway, you know? So, but that's my kind of my thinking going forward.
I like that you're, not putting it out too much, over promise and under promise and over deliver kind of thing. You just keeping it simple. It's easy to think, oh, I'm gonna pop this, that, and the other thing, and then you say something, and then that breeder or that person that gave you those seeds is like, hey, I thought you said you're gonna grow this or that. And you're like, oh man, I only have so much space, and
Yeah.
didn't
So,
get to it,
but
or it died, or didn't germinate well, or
right, or
veg
whatever the
slow, or
case.
it was a little, Tao will
So
keep
yeah,
anything, but
I have chocolate seeds that people have given me. I want to find chocolate that's real chocolate, and that is going to be like one of the priorities. But that being said, so I'll put out a couple possibilities that I want to do, but I'm not promising anything even to myself. So I have that proprietary plan. I'm gonna do take a bunch of cuttings off of that, and I'm gonna reverse one. I never reversed a female yet. I want to make some fem seeds. I want to hit it self. I want to self it because this move made me realize it's a pain in the ass to make sure you keep everything alive sometimes, and it just might not happen. So I want to get some S1s off of that just to have. And so that's one possibility in 2025. The chocolate seeds, all the chocolate, whatever I have, are going to pop. And then I want to go through some of my old stuff and maybe do some line breeding with a couple of those because those are really good. And I haven't grown out a Godiva or an Ophelia in a long time. And yeah, I want to revisit that. So that's the possibilities going forward for me anyway.
It's exciting. I think the S1 can have a lot of really cool stuff in there that's not necessarily exactly like the clone, but
Oh yeah, and I'm interested in what might come forward. When I did that, yeah, something different. I don't even know what that plan is really, so it's big. So
well, and you've got the clone still, but it's just like you said, it's if you have 100 S1s, you can hunt through and maybe find something as good or even better than the RB, what you really liked about it, and just a fresher, more vigorous because it's a brand new seed.
yeah, and there'll be variants too. So like you're saying, there might be something even better that I like better in there. So we'll see.
Or like a little different, maybe heavier on the cheese or heavier on the rubber, or just a hashier plant. I was thinking back a little bit. Noah was talking about the permanent marker, and it reminded me I had a strain that kind of smelled like they had those markers back in the day that were like scented like different flavors for like kids or whatever. Because instead of smelling like actual permanent markers, which I think get you like a little bit high and probably kill some brain cells, I think they made these like non-toxic with like essential oils, little markers, and one of them was like a blueberry, and it had like a little bit of that chemically permanent marker smell, but apparently it was non-toxic. I don't know. Kids probably still huffing them and getting a little head rush on that shit. But I've had some strains with that, like Kineos Berry Lights was in that vein for a little while, where it kind of had a chemi blueberry smell. So it's interesting to get those mixes of aromas. I know we all like to try new things, but sometimes it doesn't pan out as you might expect. And I'm curious, Brandon, have you tried any new stuff lately that you thought, you know what, that actually didn't work out as I was intending, or maybe had a negative consequence that you weren't intending?
What do you mean, like that I've grown?
It could be a light, it could be a nutrient, it could be a NutriPot. Maybe you tried a super small one or a super big one, and it was just like something that didn't quite work out as you were expecting.
No, I mean nothing recently. I haven't changed up anything in a long, long time. I stay pretty consistent. That way, I get the same result. I mean, the only thing that I can think of is just like when I'm hunting out cuts, I don't always find stuff that's like, I don't always find the stuff that I'm looking for, and I have to keep, popping more shit.
Speaking of popping, what size populations do you like to pop when you're looking for something new?
I do as much as I can fit in my room. Um, you know, I've done like okay, my current grow right now, which has the high divorce rate times limelight. I think there's like three different phenos in there. Originally I just popped a single pack and there were seven plants. They were all good. Five of those rooted really well, but I only selected three different ones to put in the bed to run back. Um, but like the blueberry train mac, I've done four pheno hunts this year and I probably popped like I don't know about 25 or 30 seeds each run. Culled out all the males and then ran the females together, done selections on each of those hunts. And now I'm sitting on like, I don't know, one, two, three, four, five, maybe six or seven different variants that'll all get run back later in the year before I do some more line work, just to do a final comparison against everything that I chose throughout the year.
How far down the line are they currently, and how far do you plan to take them?
So I have an F3, which is with the crinkle cut. and that is the crinkle cut has the best expression of what I'm looking for when it comes to the terpene profile, which is like a sweet vanilla blueberry with a um like a pungent kind of lemon pine back end. And I'll probably use a different male and cross it to that same cross and then compare the two different males together just on that line, but I'll also choose out some outliers, which were like the skunk cut that I have, and then I have one that's similar, but it's different. It's a little more herbal. Um, and I'll make F3s with each of those. So I'm just gonna play around with that. I'll be playing around with that line for a long time, just like my Limarilla. Those are like those are my two staples. The GG4 Black Lime Reserve, and then I use that Black Lime Reserve with a lot of stuff, and then that Blueberry Train Mac. So I'm just gonna keep doing line work like I've been doing line work on that Limarilla since 2015. I've got all kinds of versions of it. I've got back crosses of it. I've got out crosses and then back cross. So I kind of just stick to the my favorites, and some people really like what I also like, and so they usually support that work. But if I find something like if I find a really good male, like I'll probably find a really dope male out of this Mac 1 fighter. And if I have stuff um that I want to cross, I'll make some seeds or whatever. And then I'll do, or I'll do a project with somebody and we'll release some seeds, but it takes a long time. I don't drop things consistently.
Yeah, especially when you work to F3, like develop punch is the only thing that I've taken past the F2 and got that to F3, where I think you start to see a good amount of stability, but there is still uh, variation in there to select. I think you can really pinpoint a few flavors and different effects and things that you're looking for, depending on each grower. We all have kind of our different desire that we're looking for. I think the genetic makeup of the plant is always important to know, kind of what the mom and dad or mom and mom offer in the case of fem plants or soft plants. So it's cool to see that you've done some of the, like you're talking about outcrosses and not just going like F1, F2, F3, but taking known cuts and then crossing it back into past cuts and things like that. I think there's a lot of cool opportunities that open up when people do stuff like that, and you can, I think, achieve stability a little bit quicker in some cases by doing that, or even just bring out brand new expressions that didn't necessarily exist in any of the prior variants, kind of like you saw with the
Yeah.
skunk or
Yeah, because
some of the
that's
other
not,
expressions.
I don't know where that comes from. I mean, it's not in, I mean, I guess some of it could probably be coming from the train wreck, but it's, yeah, there's some funky stuff in there. That's definitely not blueberry or sweet like it normally is.
I've always been optimistic that somewhere buried deep down in almost like all cannabis's genome lives maybe that skunkiness that if, enough crosses are done, somebody's really truly going to come across just straight up, skunk spray, roadkill. That's
Well, there's different. I
consistently.
think that's different though, because if you have ever experienced like fresh skunk spray that gets on your dog or you get sprayed, it's different than something that's been run over or something that's been run over and it's been rotting for a week or something that's been in the sun on a I think there's a variance in those fragrance that people maybe not even be realizing.
Oh, I totally agree. I think the spray can actually smell sweet from a distance. Like I
Yeah.
like the smell of a skunk spray unless it's on your dog right in front of you. That's where it gets really like acrid and like um, difficult to like even breathe. It like chokes you out a little bit. And
Yeah.
if it gets that like burnt rubbery, almost just astringent, strong, like almost chemically odor. But
Yeah.
the
It's that acridness that really I think pushes it when you smell it.
it can like seize up your nose if you're too close on an actual skunk sprayed. And I think that's part of the defense mechanism. It pushes mammals away, and dogs are one of the common things that get sprayed because skunks can only spray like a couple times a day, and then it takes several hours or even days for them to like refill that stink gland. So they only do it if they're really, really, really threatened. So it's actually fairly uncommon for people to get sprayed, but often they get hit by cars, and when they die, it's like a person, shitting and pissing after they go. You kind of lose control of all the things like that. But I personally like the skunk spray more than the roadkill skunk, but I would be happy with any of them. I haven't seen anything like that. I've seen skunkiness, like a little touch of either one, maybe a little bit of the roadkill, like dead, rotting. Um, there's that in cannabis for sure, but I think more so the skunk spray is what people are missing. At least that's what I am. Like somebody's like, oh, did somebody, get sprayed by a skunk when you bust open the bag, like it used to be in the, 80s, 90s, 2000s, more so. Well, before a lot of stuff even had strain names, it was just, this or that coming from wherever. And I think nowadays it's a lot more fruity, gassy, chemically, um, earthy, herbal. You got all the different ranges, but skunk is like the one thing I don't see, even with like the terp sprays and stuff, all the different things that people are artificially putting onto the plant. You almost never see skunk spray anymore. Where would you categorize your blueberry train mac? I think you said the crinkle cut is the one that had the skunk pheno in there.
No, no,
Where
no.
would
The crinkle cut is the one that has the sweet. It's
blueberry
like
vanilla?
it's kind of like a vanilla. It's like a really sweet blueberry, but it also has that really pungent, um, like distinct lemon. You know the train wreck. So it's like
Yeah.
if you took that train wreck, that great train wreck profile, but that was the back end of the weed that was pushing forward this like sweet blueberry. So it's like it's a super awesome combination because blueberry and lemon go together in food combinations really
Hmm.
well, and it goes together as a terpene profile for the weed super well. And it just something about the terpenoline in it pushes that linalool because it's like the dominant terpene is linalool, but it also has it's like I said, it's a really great combination. It's super loud, it's unique, it's sweet and funky at the same time.
Serpinolene cuts through. You don't only need like a small percent of that in the profile for it to really, like you're saying, be a noticeable back end. You'll be like, oh, that is like Trainwreck or Durban Poison or
Yeah.
Jack Herrera, Herrera. But it sounds like a fire combo. But going back to the skunk, you kind of described skunk spray versus like a skunk that just got run over versus one that's been rotting for like 10 days. Where would you categorize your blueberry train mac skunk
It,
cut in that?
it'd be more like fresh spray. So it's extremely acrid. That's the first thing that you notice before you really dig into it and you start exploring the flavor profile. You immediately get hit with that's fucking weed. Like, oh shit. You know what I mean?
Just like this
And
category,
because
like
it's
the
just
typical weed
so
smell from back in the day.
no, yeah, because it's just so acrid, and then it's like it's very herbal. If I was gonna describe it, because it's like really like musky and kind of like earthy, but it has like these really acrid notes of if you were gonna combine like rosemary, basil, and sage together, and lemon.
Okay.
So it's like it's not like lemon, but it's like this weird. It's hard to describe, but it's very acrid, and that's what it smells like to me. That's like this is kind of like if I was breaking down the individual notes of it, that's what I would describe it as. But overall, it's like, oh, this is like fucking skunk.
Nice. I'm gonna be hunting through after the project fees and maybe even some of your crosses that you sent to me. I've got some pine tar kush, which I initially bought just thinking it would be piney, but pine tar actually kind of has a more uh, not just pine smell. It's like a tar. It's got an actual tarry smell to it, and I think within that tarry smell, you can get some of those kind of burnt rubber and acrid smells. And some of the old skunks I had used to be piney and earthy as well. So be interesting. I also got the 79 Christmas bud, which I think is more of a sweeter piney, like Christmas tree kind of smell. So I'm excited to hunt through both of those at some point. But Noah the Grower mentioned that he's going to be going about the hour mark today, and he's going to jump out a little bit soon to go spend a little time with family, which I totally understand. But Noah, I'm just going to ask you one question before you roll. When's the last time you came across some skunky bud, whether it was skunk spray or roadkill, and how was it?
It's been a while, and it was very good. And I totally agree with you. I don't see it that much. I remember it just like like you said. I remember it from high school, and I just remember, you know what I mean, like it being a little bit different than it is now. But you know how it goes. You can get some degree, but it's not like it used to be. But it's always awesome. It's actually always what I'm one of the main things I'm looking for, and it's kind of like that. Hard for me to come across it. So I mean, I'm sure there's growers out there that have it. There's probably guys from like the '90s that have it still, but and there's probably guys that have it backlogged in a different gear and crosses and the whole 9 yards. So, but
Great
yeah.
points.
But yeah, I'm gonna get off of here. I'll see everybody next week, and have a great rest of the show.
Cheers, Noah. Thank you so much for joining us.
All right, thank you.
Have a good one, Noah.
Later, man.
Later.
Always good having Noah the Grower on, and always enjoy talking about skunk, weed past, present, and future. It's great having him here. I know Brandon Russ is here for just a couple more minutes. We are coming up to the hour here in 8 minutes. I'm curious, Brandon, do you have anything we haven't touched on so far this week that maybe you'd like to talk a little bit about before you get running?
No, not really. I mean, I've just got all these different things I'm working on, and I just got to keep pushing forward and make them happen. So I'm excited about what'll happen this year, and I'm looking forward to see how everything turns out.
I know you're sometimes it's tough when you got NDAs, you can't talk about all the stuff, but I'm excited for all the things that you've got going on. And I really hope that they pan out for you. I know getting investments can be difficult, but getting the word out there and showing people that you're competent and continually pulling down dank buds in an industry that's only growing and getting more and more accepted and more mainstream, I think shows that you're a valuable asset to any team that you're a part of. So I'm glad that you're a part of this team in a sense. We get to have some of your input and time, whether it's 1 hour or even 10 minutes of your time. We always appreciate you showing up for the show and getting your feedback and thoughts and updates on the current kind of states in the market. And I guess we'll talk a little bit about that before you get running because you are mainly rooted in Oklahoma, but I know you're kind of all around the U.S. and even a little bit international these days. So I'm curious, what are your thoughts on the state of the Oklahoma market? I know a lot of people have talked about the highs and lows. What do you think the current state of affairs in 2025 are? Is it still viable for cannabis businesses, other than just the ultra small, lean groups to operate? And how are things looking just generally across the market board?
Yeah, well, cannabis, just like any other business, if you don't know how to run a business and keep your overhead low, keep your pay, your labor and your marketing budgets and just everything. You have to be able to successfully know how to operate a business to be able to even think about going into the legal cannabis space, and that's because the operating margins are so thin, especially if you have large facilities. Um, you know, I think what I'm doing is the best way that I could think of doing it, given my history in the space and my experience in the space. Um, we have the potential. It's like something that's going to be generating passive income after the first couple of months, and it allows us to, all in. It just again, you have to know how to run a business. That's what it comes
I'll
down
say
to.
this though. Oh, Spartan Gun's about to jump in,
Can't
which
just
is good. But
You
I
can't
will
just know
say,
how to grow weed.
even even if you do know how to grow weed or don't, some the there's people that come in with plenty of business experience. They were successful in real estate. They were successful in technology. They were successful in some other business. They run profitable businesses, high margins. They do great. They have tons and tons of money from that business. They get
Yeah,
into
and I
the
bet you
cannabis
bet you they don't
business.
know how to grow weed though.
Right.
So
And then
it's
they
always one thing. You have to know how to run a business and fucking cultivate. You
you got to be
know,
able to do both.
you have to
And
be able to,
a
and
lot of
those are
people can do one and not the
completely
other.
different skill sets. And a lot of times, you might get like a guy who's been growing for 20 years, 15 years, or whatever it is, but he's been like myself, right? I did it for 18 years before I got into the legal space. I am now, almost 4 years later, 4.5, almost 5 years later, going back into the space after exiting it and only working it from a consulting basis and from a nutrition basis, from an agronomic basis. And now I'm going back into it because I have enough experience and I have the right opportunities. And that's really what it is. Like if the overhead wasn't so low and I wasn't able to source everything or have everything that I needed to set up inexpensively, I wouldn't have done the project. But it's a good enough product where we have our hemp license, we're gonna have a dispo and the grow, we have the marketing, we have, the right location. They're building a $2 million walking business plaza 1 block away from us, and that whole area is being like gentrified. So we're in a really good position.
Location is key. I want to take a second to welcome in Spartan Grown.
Thanks, Jack. I am Spartan Grown. You can find me on Instagram. I'm sorry, I'm getting all my shit together here. You can find me on Instagram at Spartan Grown, all one word, no spaces. Otherwise, you can shoot me an email at spartangrown@gmail.com or russ@gmlarmy.com, and I can help you with growing or lighting questions. How you guys doing? I heard Brandon's got a bunch of cool stuff coming
Hey,
down the pipe, man. That was cool to hear.
Yeah, lots and lots of irons in the fire.
Yeah, dude, I don't know how you keep up with it all, man. That's crazy.
Time management. I'm good at time management. It's a logistical thing. You just get the work done that needs to be done. I do it really, really quickly. I make all the phone calls I need to. I just, whatever I need to do. And then one of the cool thing is, if there's something that I don't know how to do, like I forgot of the other day, I was like, somebody mentioned these IRS tax forms and stuff like that, and I knew really nothing about it. So I downloaded them into Chat GPT, and Chat GPT studied it for me, and I asked all the right questions. I figured out what I needed to do. I figured out which forms and paperwork I needed to fill out, and it makes it simple.
That's cool.
Having AI, I mean, oftentimes I find myself using GPT instead of Google, unless I'm shopping. You know what I mean? But sometimes even when I'm shopping, I'm like, hey, I need to find this item. Where's the least expensive place to find it online? I find myself using uh, GPT for those types of things. If I'm trying to organize information into context that's really simply formatted for people to understand, it's really, as long as I already know the information, I can format things that way. And it becomes really simple. So time management with the help of technology has greatly improved efficiencies in some departments.
yeah, but would you know if Chat GPT gave you a wrong answer for something?
I check all the stuff, you know what I mean? There's
Okay,
not
yeah, yeah.
when it comes to like plant science and stuff like that, I'll know if, and I've caught it and I said, "Hey, this is wrong. You need to check your
Right.
information."
Well, I was leaning more towards the IRS shit because if that shit's wrong, you might get like fined or whatnot.
He's talking about
No,
applying
well,
for tax.
it's studied off of the actual instructions downloaded from the IRS website. And so it
Yeah,
has
okay.
everything in there. Instead of me reading 41 pages of text, what it does is it compartmentalizes the information. So I say, hey, does my, like, I was like, here's a good example. I was like, what are the different ways that the carbon tax credits apply? One of those is if you can measure, excuse me, if you can measure the increase in photosynthetic capacity, the amount of carbon that's being sequestered by plant root exudates in the soil, which can be done through lab analytics, you can use that data to apply for the credits. So it's like if I was to measure, and we're going to be doing grants for this particular project, is we're going to be measuring both the soil carbon levels and the increased rate of photosynthesis in plants using humates and microbes. And then we're going to be able to take that data and we're going to be able to apply for carbon tax credits.
So it's not like his
Okay,
yearly
right.
taxes too.
Got you. That works.
There's other ways too. That's not just it when it comes to credits, because any equipment that you purchase that can be used in certain ways. One of those ways is if you can create something that is a product that's going to have long-term storage in the soil, which is what like the humates do, and it even says you can do biochar, soil amendments. These things all apply. So even the equipment for the manufacturing can be written off. So one of the cool things about what I was thinking of doing is once we have all this applied to our business, um, what we'll be able to do is there are a lot of people that want to invest, but there's a lot more rich people that want to mitigate taxes. So I could find somebody that wants to buy, $4 million worth of tax credit, give them a discount on it, like 10% or whatever, and they'll be stoked to give you that money. The thing is, what they're going to have to do up front is give me the $4 million. I'll go buy the equipment for the stuff that's going to be capturing carbon and doing the manufacturing for the products, and then I get a tax credit for $4 million that I then sell back to him. And so essentially I can, for the I don't have to give up equity in the company. There's just all these different possibilities. It's all about navigating business. And so that's one of the things that I've been looking at is things like grants, things like I've been talking to, Stanley Morgan. I've been looking at World Bank projects. I've been talking to my attorney about all these different opportunities. And the reason why people don't take them is because people don't know about them. And they can be difficult to understand because they're written in legalese, and then there's not a lot of people that actually do this. Like, there's not a lot of people that have gone through all of the work to understand how to apply for these things, how to make them function. So it's like, oh, that's what I have to do. I've had a little bit of help. Somebody that's in business, that's been in like, large equity structure funds and EBITDAs and all this other, business language that I still don't fully comprehend all the time, but has been guiding me and said, here's the crumbs that you need. Here's, and so I go down rabbit holes. And when it comes down to it, it's just looking at the different opportunities that are available. And in the business that I'm in, there's a ton of opportunities. Not so much the cannabis side, even though there is opportunities when it comes to research, but on the fertilizer production, on the sustainable agriculture, on the carbon sequestration side.
Well, we are all definitely rooting for you to, get some of those things. It's amazing the amount of grants and things that are out there. I knew a guy who went to college for free because he applied for every grant that was available. They like published a list at my school. There's like 186 grants available, and some of them were like female only. And this dude applied for them. This is like before any of the gender stuff was around. But there was some female only grants that no females applied for. And so he got them because he simply wrote the letter and like said, I read this book. Here's my letter or whatever about it. And he got, 500 or $1,000 here and there. And just like you're talking about, it's like legalese, you just have to go through the steps of the process of like applying, writing the thing, doing the whatever. But if you go through all the steps, there's a lot of opportunity out there. I think universities is another one that you could look to
When I
work
was
with.
on when I was on parole, I got out and I started trapping immediately. Had a grow or whatever, but my parole or my probation, can't remember if it was parole or probation, but they were like, you need to either be in school or working full time. And I was like, well, there's no fucking way I'm gonna be working for somebody full time. Fuck that. And so I applied for a grant and they paid me to go to school. So I covered the you know, what I needed to do to satisfy my probation or my parole. And then they gave me, and I got additional money, which I was like, well, this is all a fucking joke, like I'm just here for fun. All the classes I took, like I took philosophy and art history and like a bunch of just stuff that didn't make any difference. I didn't buy the textbooks. The money that they gave me, they're, oh, this is for textbooks, this is for supplies. I was like, fuck that. I'm just gonna fucking use this money for myself. Bought a, PlayStation or whatever, and I went to college, and I still did good. I passed. I, probably had like a high B average or whatever, but it was just like there's opportunity out there. There's money out there. You just have to know how to approach it. And so that's what we're working on. We're figuring all that stuff out.
A good attorney or attorneys really helps to have. And there's options out there, even if you don't have tons and tons of money, to get
Yep.
hooked up with some decent legal services. You could pay into like a monthly thing. and
I
get
have
access to.
two older Jewish attorneys. They've been in the business for fucking years. One of them is a top dog. He's got multiple recording studios in Nashville. He manages like Garth Brooks' estate and all these famous country music singer. Like he's like one of the big dogs, you know. And then my attorney that I met through Dr. George, he works with like the World Bank and he works on these huge like hundreds of millions of dollar international business projects and stuff. And so I'm in good hands on that side, dude. They definitely take care of me and answer all my. I talk to them all the time just to just ask questions about stuff. And it was interesting because even my attorney, like he knew about some of these things, and but there was stuff on there that he hadn't even thought of. So I was like, yeah, I'll show you. I'm gonna highlight these spots and I'm gonna send these over to you. And he's like, well, this, you know, it's reassuring when I find a piece of information that's pertinent to what I'm doing that could be a benefit, and then have, you know, somebody who can read that language tell me, yeah, dude, you're right. You should move forward with this.
Sometimes it takes a fresh set of eyes, and I think that you're motivated to find the ways to make it happen. And I think sometimes they maybe get comfortable and they figured out their ways and loopholes or ways to work within the system. And, you know, sometimes somebody approaches them with like, hey, does this work within the law? You know, we're doing everything above board, but the law is the law, and we can navigate it as tightly to the lines as necessary to try and operate our businesses. And that's part of, free market capitalist economy. And for the most part, we do have regulations, so we're not 100% capitalism or whatever, but um, I'd say that we've got more opportunity here than a whole lot of other places. So I'm happy to be here and be able to run businesses and, operate within that. Even I'm a much smaller scale and not, taking advantage of a lot of things that Brandon's talking about, but I do know of some of them. And there's a whole lot of, reasons to explore getting into opportunities like that because you can upscale your business and help a lot more people, have a lot more impact than you would if it was just, yourself and your family or whatever, well, whoever you can get to support you. Um, Sometimes it takes a little bit of extra capital to buy that work truck or, buy some property or land to get the thing off the ground. I know some people that are farmers and, that quarter acre turned into half an acre, turned into an acre, into 10 acres, into 50 and 500. And now they've got a big chunk of property and, you know, they pass that down to their kid and then they pass that down to their kid. And sometimes it's, sticks around, but sometimes if you don't teach them how to manage it, it can be lost and passed off. And they think, oh, we don't need all of this. And, sometimes they don't, but a lot of the time you lose generational things like that. I'm sure Spartan Grown in Michigan has seen a lot of that kind of happen. Big farms come and go and things expanding. I'm curious, have you seen some of that expansion and contraction in the cannabis space? Because I know in California we've lost, more than half of our licenses from the initial adult use legalization market times. And we talked a little bit earlier in the show about the ebbs and flows of the markets and where the current states of affairs are. Curious how things are going on your end over there in Michigan, Spartan Grow, and how it's going for other
Before
people generally.
before
And
he
maybe
before
we could
he
let Brandon.
answers, yeah, I'm gonna head out. You guys can check out the website. We always have new website blogs, and we do a giveaway every week. So sign up for the newsletter. I'll see you guys all next week.
Have a good one, Brandon.
Cheers, Brandon.
Have
Thank
a
you
good
for
one, man.
hanging.
Good to
Bye
see you
bye.
or hear you.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year,
Yeah,
everybody.
Happy New Year, man.
Cheers.
But
He
yeah,
did say he
man,
was going to hang for an hour, but glad we got him a little longer. But go ahead, Spartan.
I say Michigan's growing strong, man. There's still, I mean, I don't know what you if you want to call it going strong because I mean, yeah, they're still making a lot of sales, um, but the price is still kind of tanking. So I don't know. I think the market's settling. It's still a baby market, honestly. I'm really interested to see what's going to happen when federal legalization hits because when you can ship it across, when you can, let me back up, when you can legally ship it across borders, um, I wonder how that's going to affect the price because there's markets now with really low prices, but is that going to be matched by the demand that will open up if the entire country can just pick and choose from whatever cultivar or whatever place that's, whatever online dispo is going?
Humboldt County's finest being shipped to your door and,
I
in
think,
Cleveland, Ohio.
yeah, I think what's really going to happen is that we're going to see long term, if we're looking really long term, with federal legalization, we might see dispensaries get hurt really bad. I don't see grows really going to be hurt too bad. They might actually be in more demand at that point. But I think I think dispos are going to be in trouble because that's gonna open the online market and people are just gonna be shipping stuff, like you said, cross state lines right to the person's door. I think cannabis is one of those things that's still looked at kind of like it's a shock to somebody to find out for the first time that you might be smoking cannabis if they think you're, a straight lace, we'll put in air quotes. So it'll be the demand will increase because people will just be able to order it discreetly to their house. They don't have to now go into a dispensary. I think there's still going to be a lot of demand. There's a lot of people who refuse to really try it or go for it because they have to go into a store, and that's a lot for them. So I honestly believe, and I maybe I'm just Mr. Optimistic here, but I really believe that when federal legalization comes, man, the dispo is not where you want to be if you're working in the in the market because I think it's really going to hurt them. I think that's going to be a new blooming for the cultivators though, the people that are growing because I think demand's going to be huge and for a while it's going to be like the first time a market opens in a state. I think it's going to be kind of duplicated again countrywide because the demand's going to be so huge. I know I keep saying that, but I think that they'll be able the only way you'll be able to stand out is two ways in the cultivation game, and that's going to be either if you go massive grow or we'll say multi-state grows um and just outdoor and in a good area you got the land, or it's going to be, your craft, best boutique style. You go for quality. So there's going to be a quantity and there's going to be a quality, and I don't think there's going to be a lot of middle ground after a little bit. I think that's kind of going to be the separation, and that's my like long-term projection, like the way I see that it's going to go. But for me, I think the thing that's going to the thing I'm most fear in that same aspect is that home grow. Where's that going to go? What's that going to be? When I look at it almost like the medical side of states, how we kind of go. Usually it goes medical legal, then it goes rec legal, and then medical dies, and that's happening in Michigan too. Um, I think so will home grow. I think as people get more used to just ordering their cannabis online, getting it right to their door. If they don't cut in the home grower to that system, they don't cut in a caregiver or some kind of a home grow right to be able to participate in that market. I think that there's only going to be enthusiasts like us now growing at home, and that's a sad state of affairs. But there's always a yin and a yang and a positive and a negative, and I mean that's my long-term projection, not just in Michigan, but in the entire country. I think we're going to see federal legalization before the end of the next presidency. I think Trump's going to do it,
I,
or
I said earlier before you came on, he actually already did it. The hemp farm bill in 2018. I mean, unless you
right,
have
yeah,
THC, which is heated up cannabis, which is almost never the case. Cookies and all these other brands, Steezy or Stizzy, whatever, they've been selling stuff in all like Texas and all these other states in gas stations and head shops and all over the place as Delta 9 or Delta 8 or THCV or whatever it is, but it was never out of it was rarely out of licensed cannabis retail shops. It was often out of gas stations and head shops and places that didn't pay all that money and have all the testing and all the other stuff. So people like myself like have been shipping seeds and others have been doing clones because they fall under the zero point 0.3 THC as well. So it's other than we've had loopholes before like fishing bait or exotic bird seed and things like that, preservation. But it's nice to have a little bit less of like a stress when I go to the post office and I'm shipping seeds anywhere in the US because I'm like, these, if they're taken, it's wrongfully. I will literally fight the post office over it. Like, I will fight them in court. I will sick my lawyer on them. Like, fuck that shit. Like, we have the laws on our side now. And I think, like you said, in this next, I'm not hoping, like, holding my breath that it's going to happen, but I could see it happening because just the way things have been going. We're way above 50%. I always pull up the map, but it's like way more states have adult use and medical programs than don't. There's like, I think less than 10 states have like no cannabis program. And even then, like the hemp farm bill kind of negates that because people are growing hemp with hemp licenses when and where they can. And I think that's even occurring in Texas in some small regards. And they're even kind of getting more on board with like uh, shops and things like that that I'm hearing about recently. So the laws are moving in our direction in this regard. And I think there's less and less of that person thinking like, oh, you're straight laced, but you use cannabis, so you're like not anymore. Because the more people that find out, I realize the less care, even if they don't use it themselves.
Right.
Because
Well,
I've seen like
I think it's the
that.
cool
It
thing.
surprised me more
So,
how few people at large used it. I just kind of assume everyone else does because I do, which is a wrong mindset. That's like a childish way of thinking, and I know that. But it's easy for me to assume where I live. Like Southern California seems like this really free-spirited, open-minded, hippy-dippy mindset in some regards. There's like a lot of people I would expect to use it, and I'm surprised that they don't. But at the same time, they don't give a shit if you do. They maybe did for years and they just don't use it anymore. Maybe it doesn't work for them, or maybe they just don't enjoy it as much or whatever. But they don't like look down on people for it. They most of them know like at least 10 other people that do, or even if they don't, they've come across it at some point. You smell it just walking around here at this point. So it's not that everyone does, but enough people do that they realize not everyone who does is like a crazy person, like the old ads used to imply.
I've made it my mission to turn everybody around me, my coworkers, to cannabis positive. So everybody knew what I was about because I'd let them fucking know right from the get. And be like, oh, you got, because everybody eventually, at least the jobs I did, everybody eventually on break is going to bitch about something hurting. Always. It's guaranteed. And so that's my in. You don't say that around me. I'll let you know. I got something that'll fix that.
Attitude adjustment.
Absolutely. That's what the entire
It
world.
really can be, man. Like I've been in a bad way sometimes where I'm in pain. I just don't, I'm not in as good of a mood if and when I'm in pain or like not sleeping as well. On vacation, I was happy to see family and friends, but not sleeping in my own bed. I was sleeping like 3 to 5 hours a night, which is awful for you. It's terrible for you. And I got home and slept like 8 hours a night, 8 hours a night, 8 hours a night, 10 hours one night because I had a fucking super long hike and active day. And I just, after those few good nights of sleep, like I just felt like myself again, like it takes it out of you. One, traveling is just tough, going through airports, driving long distances, being in cars and, houses and places that aren't yours. As fun as it can be, it's definitely exhausting.
And jet lag's a real thing.
Oh yeah, I forget about, I had a 3 hour time change, which that definitely adds to the change. And then like I was in multiple different time, like Arizona is 1 hour off of California, and then Florida is 2 hours off. So I went like one day in Arizona, Florida, different time zones, and just I don't think I ever really got settled in to any of the other time zones, but I was just going through the motions there, eating at different times and just forcing it to work. And I won't complain because I know how fortunate I am to be able to one travel and two get to see family, even as rarely as it may be these days. But that's my own choosing. When you move to the opposite side of the country, you don't expect to see your family all the time. It's expensive and takes a lot of time and energy and effort to line up those schedules. And I'll say after this most recent travel, I think some of the best way to visit if you're gonna go see family. Um, is to see them like where they live or have them come see you where you live. Don't try and go to a third party place. There's too many variables they need to line up when, you know, everybody has to meet in the third party location. That shit is difficult. You can make it happen for sure, but if you're all coming from different places, that shit is much, much more difficult than just, go see them where they're at. Go home, go back to where you live or have them come visit you where you're at. It just makes things way easier as a general bit of, not that I'm the world's best traveler or anything, but and my bit of travel experience, I will say that'll probably save you a lot of headaches. And it's just nice to have at least one set of the people is having good sleep and their norm,
Yeah.
their regular food, their regular bed, their regular toilet, and shower, and 100% is just like that's their life that they're used to. And one person's out of their comfort zone, the other person's sort of hopefully in their comfort zone if they're at home. If you're not uh, in your comfort zone at home yet, gotta readjust that setup because I know not everybody is, and maybe you don't have the choice to quite yet. But if you're listening to this show, you're probably an adult, so definitely. And because I always put the 18 plus whatever, and I get that there's people that can go around age restrictions. It's not the ultimate foolproof. One thing I will say is, man, I was surprised to see some of the laws in like Florida and Georgia with adult entertainment. Like they require like IDs coming up in like 7 days or something like that. And I think Florida or Georgia has actually like banned it, so you can't go to like websites that rhyme with corn hub, interestingly enough, in Georgia. So I hear. Maybe people in the
For
comments
what?
can
So,
correct me.
so they want an ID. So why is that a bad thing?
Florida
Oh,
is just to
people
make
with
sure that
ID.
kids don't look at it, which
Yeah,
I mean, I
what's
don't
the
think that
big
there's
deal?
anything wrong with
That's
that.
okay. Yeah.
I get that. I get that. But it's just kind of, I think some people feel like it's an invasion of privacy or something like that. And they're so used to just going onto those websites, they feel shame.
Oh, having their ID showed to
Info.
a
Yeah.
computer bothers them. Like the computer
As if
doesn't
it's
have
not
your ID
watching. Yeah.
already.
That's always been my thought. It's like they know where I'm at, they know what I'm doing, they can hear me talking right now, and whether I choose to, put my phone on airplane mode and zip it in a Faraday bag or whatever, like, if they want to find you and fuck around with you, like my general thought is just try and live good within the lanes as much as you can, and never break one more than one law at a time. I think Tao recommended that advice long ago, and I think many have, and I think that's a fairly sound advice. And just don't get too crazy out there. But yeah, I don't
Speaking
know.
of traveling, I was traveling today and I wanted to I wanted to rib Brandon a little bit about Chicago because he's talking about moving maybe out there. And I'm like, dude, do not move out to Chicago. Please do not. Because I don't want any reason to have to drive around through even anywhere near Chicago. God, every time I get near Chicago, I get stuck in a traffic jam. Every time.
Hey, that's not the worst thing that can happen in Chicago.
No, yeah, a lot worse things can happen. That's just more reason for me to avoid those roads. Oh,
And at the same time, there are people and like well off, whatever. There's like two or three different Chicagos, right? There's like if you're in the ritzy area, there you're not gonna necessarily have problems. And there's some really, really fancy ass shit and some of the best shit in the world in Chicago. But there's definitely like every big city, you know.
yeah, but you fly there, take the train there, and then get a cab or an Uber or somebody to drive you around. But do not drive there. If you're anything like me, I'm a calm, pretty cool, laid back dude until I get behind the wheel of a car, and then I can get road rage fairly easily. And wow, that's just nerve-wracking to sit there and on a whatever it is, 20 lane highway.
Did you ever drive
It's
in
stopped.
New York, Spartan?
No, thank you, man.
What
I
about
just
Ohio?
get
You ever
bad
drive in Ohio?
or like I have been through Ohio. Yeah,
What do you think
55.
of Ohio driving?
I think driving 55 on a road that I can see all the way into another state when I get into your state is the stupidest law in the world, I think. Or not in the world. That's a little dramatic, but it's pretty dumb. Yeah, I can't that's the song. I can't drive 55.
I will say I could go for higher speed limits because Jay Leno has pointed out back in the day they made the 55 speed limit by putting a towel over people's speedometer back in like the 40s or 50s or 60s early on, and they'd have them drive until they were like comfortable, and like when they started feeling uncomfortable, they'd pull the thing up, and when they got to that speed, it was like 55. So
No,
Okay,
that
but
dude.
when was that? Because
Yeah,
I
like
think
50 years ago,
they need to update
it
that
was
shit because
75 before the oil embargo. There was
depending
like
on the
70.
state,
Yeah, it was the state had
we
control
have
over
some
it.
speed limits in Michigan that are still on the highways that are 75 someplace.
there's 75
They
in
changed them
Texas,
back.
there's
Yep.
80, 85 in some states,
There's a
but
couple 85s. Yeah.
there's like the fucking Autobahn, but the thing is, like, cars now are stable as fuck at, even 100 in some
Yeah.
cases. So
I
you don't,
basically, those are recommendations, not really limits in my world.
some states it's literally a recommendation. The speed limit
Yeah.
is
The
is like
yellow
recommendation
signs.
for the current safety of the road. So if it's snowing, you're not going to go 70 on a 70, right? If it's icy and black ice, you're probably going to be doing, depending on your vehicle and how bad it is, a little bit slower than that. But if it's sunny and dry, it's different than if it's hailing or raining hard. The road conditions necessitate different speeds based on how bad it is out.
I've
Well,
already,
it's supposed to.
I've already fucking said, I've already got it solved. Whenever I become independently wealthy somehow, the first thing I'm buying with my fuck you money is like my buddy is going to be my driver, and I'm not gonna have to drive again, and I'll be fine, man. Because I'll be chilling in the back seat with the Puffco, completely fine.
Limo style.
Yeah, man, exactly. That's how I ride it. So the problem's solved. I know myself, so I just solved the problem.
Most wealthy people do get a driver as one of the first things. So if they are drinkers or smokers, or even if you just don't want to pay attention, it's like I used to take the train, even if it would take way longer to get places because it's just a fun ride. Like I went up to Humboldt to visit a friend. Humboldt State University was a 22-hour train slash bus ride from San Diego to Humboldt, and I did that to visit somebody, and it was well fucking worth it. I stayed there for a couple days and then 24 hours back. But man, it was one of the best times of my life. And when you're on the train, especially the train ride back when I had some amazing edibles. I was high as a motherfucker. I actually got so high I got paranoid and threw one of them away, thinking that I was gonna get like drug dog busting me.
Dude,
So
that from what I hear, and I have it's been a little bit since I've been on the train, but they do not give a fuck. Like you can bring whatever the hell you want.
dude, there was this when I was up there, especially up north, like there was an old man went to the bathroom and then like came out and it just smelled strongly of weed smoke. Like he clearly just went in there and smoked a bowl. He was like coughing and weed smoke comes billowing out. Driver didn't say shit. So it's a yeah, fun way to travel sometimes, especially when you're like broke like I was in college and had very, very little money, Greyhound or whatever. Public transportation was the only, I didn't have a car, I didn't have any other option. So I was gonna
Plane,
go see the redwoods.
I was going to say the plane ride back from California for me was always a great experience. I was always edibled up big time on that plane ride. Even on the plane ride there, actually, I was edibled up really good. But
That's
that
one of the
is the
best
way.
ways to, if you have to
Yeah,
fly,
if you
take a
have to
bunch
get
of
on a
edibles.
plane for more than 6 hours, do an edible, I was just smiling the whole way. And then, yeah, basically both ways. The TV was like a port. It looked like a window. It was like 3D. The little TV in front of me.
How tall are you, Tao?
I'm 6'1". If I get a good haircut, well, yeah, 6'2" if I let my hair grow big.
So for you, like myself, I'd imagine, are maybe a little uncomfortable on some of
Oh
the
yeah.
modern planes because leg room.
I wait until the end. Like everybody rushes to get on the plane. I'm like, I'll wait until the end because I'm going to be sitting for
Last
six
call.
freaking hours. One of the times I went on last. Okay, so the overhead was all jammed up. The lady took my bag and I watched her put it in like four cupboards in front of me. And as we were getting off the plane, I watched some chick grab my bag. She was going to leave with it. And I yelled, I'm like, you put that green duffel bag back up there. I'll kick your ass. And she put it back up there. And nothing I could do because there was like, 20 people. Like yeah, yeah.
Yeah, you,
So
you ain't getting
you
past
you
that on
gotta
the
you got
deplaning.
yeah, keep your head on a swivel. I saw a car get stolen in New York in LaGuardia Airport because it was the last I don't know what you call them. It's losing it, but right there you get on the highway. Like so the guy got out, the car was running, went to the trunk to get his wife's bag out. He got it out. The guy jumped in the driver's side and took off. The chick starts screaming, my kid's in there, my kid's in there. Luckily the kid had gotten out, but she didn't know it. So, but that car is gone. They'll never see that car again, dude. It happened like that. I was just like, damn, I just saw a car get stolen.
It's wild how fast it happens. It's never when people plan either, so it is good to keep your head on a swivel generally. Some
This is
bad shit
probably gonna.
happened at the
I was gonna
start of
say
the
this will
year.
probably be a bad thing for me to say on air, but I'm still gonna say it. I always privately in my head, and don't tell me I'm the only one. When you're like at a gas station or maybe, I don't know, driving past a Dunkin' Donuts or something, and you see a cop car parked in the parking lot running and the cop's not in the car. How many times do you think, God damn, I just want to get in that thing and just go? So-
So they lock when they're running, and they have to run to keep the computer systems going. Otherwise, it would kill the battery. So it's pretty commonplace for most police departments to have their vehicles run. Some of them might not lock it, and when I lived
Wait
in
a minute, wait a
Florida,
minute, wait a minute,
two
wait a
cars
minute,
got
wait a minute.
stolen
So
with
what do they do when they park
firearms
it
in them.
at the end of the day? They keep it running all night long, No,
They shut the
cut them off.
systems down. When they
Yeah,
shut the
so
systems
shut the
down.
shit down, dude. If you're getting the fucking donut, you better be doing it not on my time. You better not when we're paying you. You better be doing it on your break time. And I don't care if
I
it
think
takes
they have
time.
like state mandated breaks just like the rest of us. They got to take their
Okay.
30 or hour or
Okay.
whatever.
So I don't know. All the places that I worked like that, I literally worked at a place I was on a timer. And the time started from when I walked away from my machine because it was an assembly line. So I'm walking to the break room. You go wash your hand, all the good stuff. All that's on your own time. You don't get to do that. You don't get paid for that. So so why should anybody else be different? I don't understand.
I don't
I'm
make the
sorry, that's a
rules.
pet peeve of mine. I don't know. I don't know. I don't understand why they're above the law.
You know, it is unfortunate that at times they are. I'd say 99% of them are just trying to keep the peace and not fuck with people. But there are
Yeah,
those
yeah, for sure. If
1% of
something
them.
bad happens or whatever, I'm calling the police. I'm not complaining. Those are the guys I want and gals I want to come out for sure. And I'm not saying they don't do their job, but I'm just saying there's some of them that abuse it a little bit.
Oh, many like there when there's as many as there are, even if it is 1%, there's just like that's a high volume. And you'll see all the videos of the bad ones. You rarely see the videos of the good ones that are giving the kids gifts and fucking, running into the mass shooting after they were telling the kid to wear the seatbelt. And I'm not trying to be a bootlicker or anything right now. I fucking got my ass beat by a cop for no reason over a little bit of weed. So I know they are out there. They have power trips just like everyone. I think they should have more stringent hiring processes and more training, if anything, not less, and better funding because unfortunately, you know, sometimes those people just get shot randomly. Dude, driving down the street. I was just watching one last night. It was sad as fuck. This guy was like a quote oath keeper and just had his son laying down in the back of his truck, just unload on this cop driving down the street. And then they came back around 5 minutes later and put more rounds into him. Like, dude had a family, kids. It's like he didn't provoke it. It was just like he happened to be somebody wearing the uniform and they were just looking to kill cops. And you know, that's a unfortunate reality. I get that's part of what they sign up for, but that is a reality of it that a lot of people in this space don't necessarily face. My cousin is a SWAT officer and he does shit where they're saving like fucking kids that are being abused and taken advantage of or drugged up and kidnapped. And, there's a lot of good shit done by law enforcement that doesn't get highlighted. And a lot of these dudes have PTSD just like veterans, sometimes worse. So it's like a lot of people underestimate first responders generally across the board, firefighters. A lot of them aren't just putting out fires, they're going in to resuscitate people that have OD'd or had heart attacks or whatever, like EMTs. And that work is a lot of overlap. And there's so much stress and trauma. And um, I will say, like, this is going to sound like a plug, but fucking my wife's company, American Weed Co., works with, it's called Responder Strong. And the reason that I'm passionate about this, like, my uncle was a Vietnam vet and he had PTSD from war and it fucked him up. And he never got to use cannabis. It was so stigmatized where we were at, and it would have taken away his VA quote unquote benefits, which were very, very little, if anything. He suffered for the rest of his life after he came back. And I think cannabis would help him and many others. And I've got to see veterans who've had great benefit. I know a handful of Marines that live locally. I get to work with them on occasion. And they love smoking, and I see how happy they are and how calm they are when they get to smoke a little weed and just chill and just go work at a music festival or do whatever the fuck.
Look at my father, like your uncle, Vietnam vet, and I'm his grower, and I always, I will be to the day he dies, and it's for a reason because it helps him. Even though he takes shit at the VA, he's got to hide it. You're right.
And that's wrong. I think that they're still fighting. They're lobbying. They have a group. It's Stop Soldier Suicide is lobbying at the federal level, and they've made strides in some states and allowed certain people in states to at least have access to not lose their benefits and start to research the, you know, like we talked about with like Noah the Euro in the past, and I think you mentioned in the past with like warfarin and blood thinners and the effects of THC on the blood versus CBD, for example. And you talked about turning people on at work. My job, I was like the almost like Charlotte's Web. I'm not a CBD person myself in my personal life. That's not my side of the cannabis thing. It's been so undeniable in my space. I work with autism and cerebral palsy primarily in my personal business. And like 75, 80% of my families are directly benefiting from cannabis product, predominantly CBD. Some of them have THC ratios built in, and some have even minor cannabinoids and other things in there. So it's just amazing to see that it's so many lives are touched by that, and whether it's pain or other things, it can manage uh, things from behavior to seizures to there's so many different parts of the body that cannabis can positively impact. So it's eye-opening when you have kind of one idea of what cannabis is in your mind most of your life. For me, it was, I think, unintended mental health benefits, but also I had arthritis from sports and back injuries from car accidents and athletics as well. And so I've gradually learned lots of different ways to benefit from cannabis in my own personal life. But my journey is my own, and there's so many other. I love listening to podcasts and hearing other people's stories because it shows me just how diverse this plant really is and how many different people can help with how many different backgrounds and how many different ailments and issues and things that it turns people from like the brink of death sometimes. And I'd hate to sound dramatic, but like I know people who, beat the cancer, who did come back and are still here. And that's, it sounds unbelievable, but I know enough now at this point. It's just like I could stand firmly on that in my lifetime and say anybody who's pushing against that narrative, I question their narrative, their funding. Where are they getting their information from? Where are they, why are they pushing that agenda? Because I haven't seen tons of convincing evidence that it causes a major detriment or doesn't have the effect that many of us are claiming. Like if you go to like cureyourowncancer.org, has like thousands of cases of people that here's my stage 4 cancer. Here's when I started taking RSO. Here's when it's starting to stage 3. Here's when all my tumors were gone. Here I am living 5 years, 10 years later. And, it's a beautiful thing. It's an option. It doesn't work for everybody. And even the ones that it doesn't work for, I think it brings peace in their final days because the chemo and all the other things that they go through, cannabis has definitely been shown to lessen the negative effects of all those different drugs and things that they have to go through, procedures, just even increasing the appetite and decreasing the pain, allowing people to sleep. Those are all, like we talked about, it's easy to underestimate, but when you lose it for a little bit, your health, it's, I think, more important than anything. Wealth can't touch your health. There's no amount of money people would pay to get back to healthy if they get really, truly sick someday.
Yeah, I've known more than one person that knows people that have had cancer, and when they at their last days were like, I should have just used marijuana from the beginning because once they really started using it, they could actually live again instead of just being whatever. Yeah.
Well, we just have, society, I guess the government or society to blame for that. There's that stigma, and that's what's pushed them against it. People would try it if it was truly looked at like a medicine, like how we look at it, like how everyone who's watching this is probably looking at it. And so what our mission is to do is try to get it out there as a medicine. When somebody says something hurts, you say, I got something that'll fix that. Or if somebody says, I can't sleep at night, that's a big one nowadays. Man, you can make some cannabis oil and then really more so, and I can almost guarantee that it's going to help you sleep. I'm not even kidding. You guys tickled my fancy today. This is right up my alley. I had a lady tell me that she was taking sleeping pills and she had to switch medications because it was having bad side effects and stuff. And she tried them all and blah, blah, blah. And I said, have you heard about my personal Lord and Savior cannabis? And she starts laughing, and that's always a good way to break it, right? And long story short, I ended up bringing her some RSO to try and coached her through it. And she had a super low tolerance. So I had to start out like extremely like take a Q-tip or not a Q-tip, take a toothpick and dip it in the oil and just you know, suck that off or whatever, flick that off onto your tooth. And to get her going. And eventually she, went up to enough to where we could put it into a capsule and weigh it at least on a scale, which made it way more accurate. And then, but long story short, she's off all her sleeping pills and she's sleeping just fine with just the hour. So I mean, and I know everybody, it sounds like when we talk about these things that, oh, it's, you say it's a cure all and blah blah blah, but all I got to say, when it comes to your health and it's something you're suffering with, give it a try. Why is it? What do you have to lose? Jesus, get better or stay the same. But I mean, worst case scenario, you stay the same. What the hell? Why not give it
Cannabis cannot hurt you, basically. You
I
know, it
will.
can maybe
right?
make you uncomfortable for a minute, but other than that, you're gonna
That's
be
the one
fine.
caution. I
Yeah,
gave my 82 going on 83-year-old neighbor some RSO and didn't dose it down low enough. And because she's like, we've given her different products, CBD, THC throughout the years, and she's been able to handle a decent amount. But I think it could have been the strain or just the potency, and maybe she took too much. And I thought we gave her a relatively low dose, but we didn't go as low as Spartan low. So they ended up staying up all night long and kind of feeling nauseous and too high and panicky, and so they're a little skeptical or paranoid, but they're taking other like ratios, CBD to THC now. This is a while ago, and they're doing much better with it, and even getting the dog a little bit on to the CBD and things like that to help with joints and things like that. And my cat, who used to have anxiety, we gave him CBD in the early days, and he kind of mellowed out. I kind of joke he's a guard cat because he's super chill with me and my wife, but anybody else who comes to the door, he kind of runs up and hisses at him and pretends that he's tough for a little bit before he goes and hides. But yeah, the I think yeah, CBD can have benefits across the board for people, and I think that can also be a way to counteract some of the negative effects of if you take too much RSO, where people start to feel a little bit too high. Take a little bit of CBD to help them come down, and just have that on deck. So people like her will be able to better able to get that THC dose because I do think that having both sort of is a unlocking of the key for some people, and sleep is one, like Spartan mentioned. Um, I think if you just take a large enough dose, like I think it'll get people past the panic or paranoia, and you'll just pass the fuck out because it like overwhelms your system. Like when I've gotten so just like cannabis festival type stone where you just go, you're smoking joint after joint after joint, dab after dab after dab, edibles all day long, and you're just like infused dinner with every single thing was infused, and you just get home and you've probably had like I don't know 7,000 milligrams throughout the day, and you're just every single cannabis pore is saturated within your body, and so I never have a hard time sleeping on those nights. I always sleep great because I just think when you fully saturate your endocannabinoid system, it allows you to potentially, just clock out for a little bit. And I tend to wake up feeling like really refreshed, unlike when I used to drink alcohol. And I was going to go back to the whole Spartan talking about federal legalization, like marketing and branding, I think would be a huge thing. Like you said, there's going to be the boutique, and then there's going to be like the large scale. So you're going to have like your Bud Lights, but then you're also going to have like your craft beers, your local one. So I think some people do like to buy local and like to go to the shop. So there will be like a dispo or two that will function in each town that is well placed and has the right kind of style for the city and the right pricing and the right brands and things like that available. Some people just like the convenience of going and picking it up. There's going to be delivery services, and there's going to be stuff shipping it to the door. I think the delivery service will probably take the biggest hit when the shipping to the door happens because um, when you've got USPS, Amazon, FedEx, all these other ones dropping packages left and right all day long, why pay some usually young kid or young adult or adult. It doesn't matter what your age is. I don't want to make anybody feel bad if they're, 70 driving delivery out there in the cannabis industry or whatever. But um, whatever your age is, I think it's just going to be more convenient to be part of the existing network. Like people like to have stuff dropped off at their door, especially like next day. If you can have that available, like Amazon is going to have, they already do in like Europe. I think you can get hemp seed and cannabis seed and things like that on some of the Amazon websites. So it's not going to be too long before they're, shipping mids to people's door and they'll have the Bud Light or whatever. And I think it'll be on people like us to develop craft brands and boutique brands. But I think like Humboldt County and California, and I think Michigan will be, there's going to be like these really green pockets that are known. Oh, they've been in the cannabis industry for decades. These people are artisans. They really know. And the word will get out because people will have these Instagram pages or YouTubes or whatever, where it's like they've been following this person for years. Now when it's federally legal, oh shit, I can buy direct from Spartan Grown or something if it rolls out as it should, you know?
Yeah, who's talking it's going to be federally legalized? They're talking about rescheduling it, right?
Well, I mean, it's just a matter of time. And under the hemp bill, people, I've seen some pretty bold folks out there. There's a lot of people just on X, straight up shipping packs, and not a lot of it gets picked up. If you vacuum seal stuff 3 times and put it in a, you know, relatively uh, discreet packaging, or just use like the USPS priority boxes, they get there with tracking. So
It
it's not
drops.
like
Yeah,
Canada, but
yeah. I think it'll be federally legal because it's going to be so. It's going to be a moneymaker tax wise. So I think it's a slam dunk government wise, and I think that if somebody's wanting to make a big win real quick, who does that sound like? And I mean that would be an easy one. Oh, I
yeah, I was
mean,
talking about
over
the part.
60% of the population wants it. I mean, come on. All you need is over 50. It's a pretty easy one for them to do. It's just they got to figure out how they get their piece of the pie. The last time I saw it come through, they were gonna get like 7 or 8% tax, federal tax on all the sales.
Better than 32 or 34% now in San Diego.
Yeah, yeah, that's insane. That would kill it, that would kill the market. But so that's not good for them either. So yeah, they got to come up with something somewhat reasonable.
What do you think's reasonable?
Zero, I think is reasonable. I think no taxes on it is reasonable.
1%, I think, is what they did when the end of prohibition of alcohol. You do that
Uh,
for a few years just to
I
stamp
think
out
you want my
quote
my
unquote
idea.
unregulated market.
They should fucking abolish all the taxes except for the national sales tax. They can have a national sales tax to fund shit. And that way there's no fucking loopholes to fucking get around shit. If you buy shit, you're paying your taxes. And that's how the fucking country runs is you buying shit. And the country used to be that until they changed it. So yeah, I like the idea of that. The fair, it used to be called the fair tax for the longest time. I don't know what it's being called now, but it's always been around. It's just and it's been fairly popular. It just hasn't been introduced.
It's just each state has their own right, and some states like to have no sales tax. So
No, well, what it'd be is the federal would just have a sales tax. So you wouldn't have an income tax. So whatever fucking income you made, you wouldn't have to fill out papers to the IRS and all that bullshit because the only time you're paying taxes would be just like you do to the state. You know what I mean?
when you're buying stuff,
When you're buying
Like
stuff.
Monopoly, luxury tax.
Yeah, yeah.
I like the flat tax approach. I wish we could implement that, but I think we're far away from each state has to come, even each city has to get down to the point of like it's so split up and broken down to county by county, district by district. We're really the almost like divided United States because each state has their own different laws and rules
Hmm.
about lots of things.
But
Which
that would
I
kill a lot of.
honestly love that. I honestly love that because then it gives you the freedom to move your ass to the
Vote with
state.
your feet. You can literally
Yeah,
drive legally across
Yeah.
the state line and go move to somewhere else. Rent. Like in some cases, it's a 5 minute drive across the border to the next state, and you're into
exactly.
from
I have to
like
do that
Ohio
in
to
my state.
PA.
I have to do that in my state. So to get a high proof alcohol, which I use to make high grade, RSO, cannabis oil, FICO, whatever you want to call it, I have to drive out of my state because my state doesn't let me buy anything but 150 proof.
You're
So
allowed to bring it back though.
what do you mean? Am I allowed? Who do I ask? I fucking put it in my car and I drive it back.
That's right.
What do you mean? I don't know.
I don't know what the
I
I
don't
just
know.
possession
go I just
laws.
go across the damn border to where it's legal. I buy me a half gallon, maybe a gallon, depending on what I need. And then I drive my happy ass back, get caught in traffic and get pissed off. But I still get back here and I'm fine. And I got alcohol.
Are fireworks legal in Michigan?
Yeah, fireworks are legal in Michigan.
So they weren't in Ohio when I lived there. They might be now. I don't know. But we used to have to
It's
like
funny by the border, all the big giant fireworks stores. Yeah.
you'd drive and it'd be like Phantom fireworks next exit or whatever, and you just drive right across the border. It's like
They're
here
still
you
there,
can go to
dude.
Mexico. I
Phantom's
think in
still around.
California they're banned. You can go to Mexico and grab them, but they do
There
check.
was
That border's a little harder to go across.
there's fireworks in the supermarket here. I was like, what?
Yeah, that's what we got.
Yeah, it's
Yeah, right in
crazy.
the
You're in PA
supermarket.
now, right?
Yeah, yeah. New York never had that.
No, it's funny. Each state really
Yeah.
it's like the Wild West in some states. Fireworks are very interesting, but we won't get too into that.
I'm
I will
not a
say be
fan.
safe if you ever.
I'm honestly not a fan of fireworks, but I'm a fan of the freedom to have them. So I'm okay with people. Just,
Yeah,
fucking my dogs go nuts every time. So it's always when it's 4th of July or whatever, it's usually me calming the dogs down all fucking night long. So
and
it takes the fun out of it a little bit.
don't fill the back of the Tesla truck with fireworks either.
Dude,
Well,
that was a crazy
yeah.
fucking story.
Yeah,
Sad, but yeah. The craziest part about that, the battery didn't even catch. Dude, it filled the thing full of like gas and different fireworks. The
and that
battery of the car didn't ever catch on fire.
the thing is like
Didn't even
a
blast the window
reverse
out. I don't know if
tank.
that's
Yeah, it didn't
crazy.
even the thing stayed contained because the Tesla truck is like
I'm
Pretty much
seeing
bulletproof or
more.
some shit.
I'm seeing
bulletproof to
more
a
and
certain
more of those
extent.
on the road, and I still think they're one of the ugliest fucking vehicles I've seen.
Like, yeah, I
What
don't even
is that?
understand how it's a truck.
Yeah, it might not be for you. I think it's cool.
Does it open up and you can like fill it up with dirt like a pickup
Yeah,
truck? Okay,
the
yeah,
tonneau cover opens. You can stand on
okay.
top of that thing. Like it holds like three
I
or four
never,
hundred pounds.
I was never in one or really saw one working, but I don't think they're a work truck. They're more like,
It depends the kind of
trust
work you're in.
fund, a trust fund work. No,
There's some people out there doing real work with them, but a lot of
okay,
people are just fucking around with them.
yeah,
But the
Not
thing
in
is, like,
cold
if you
climates. Not doing too well in cold climates with them, from what I'm
the
hearing.
range isn't as good, but like you charge at home, and even if you're getting 50% of 300 miles, most people aren't driving, 150 miles plus per day.
I did
And
that today.
yet you ain't most people.
yeah. I would do that.
I'd say the average in the US is 12,000 miles per year, which is like less than 50 miles a day. It's like 35 to 50. So the fact that it is bulletproof to handgun and shotgun rounds, pretty cool. Most trucks are not that way. Um, there's already been instances where it's saved people, but it's I think just more convenient. Like if your car gets dinged by the person who parks next to you and slams their fucking door into you, you've got a steel door. You don't have to worry about your door getting fucked up and being repainted and refinished because some asshole fucking flung their door open on you because they're driving a beater and you just got your fancy new truck. Because other trucks in that price range, like any F-150 or Ram or whatever, they're all up in the same price range. If you get the fully decked out, whatever,
Yeah.
they're similar or even more expensive, like the Raptors and stuff.
It's just I'm not. I guess I don't look at vehicles like a lot of people. I think it's like if I get a ding in my vehicle, fucking sweet. It's got character. I ain't doing paying to fix that. Fuck that. And I'm driving it. You know what I mean? But I look at it as a tool to get me from point A to point B. I'm
Yo,
not.
spawn everything is utilitarian for me. It's it, whatever it's useful for. It's like people who get new sneakers. Oh, I can't wear them out. They're my new sneakers. I'm like, dude, that's what you got them for. What the f, man? Come on now.
If you're a collector, it's one thing. I
Yeah,
will say,
that's
like,
different. But
I see people
yeah,
that make more money with the truck than it costs them to own it. Like,
right.
there's a
That's
guy on YouTube, he like does Lyft rides and Uber drives, and he does snow plowing with it, and he hauls logs with it. Like, he's done a whole bunch of different shit. And he's like, this is how much money I made, and he's breaking down every single cost per insurance and cost per month, and showing how he's profiting from owning it, but it's become like his business. So it's interesting. I think that people have the opportunity, whether it's that vehicle or any vehicle, to make a living with a good truck. I've always found that's part of I think what built the U.S. More F-150s I think are sold every year than almost any other truck, and there's
What I'm
tons of them
talking
out
about.
there. But Rams and Chevys and GMCs, they all fucking the amount of work they can do. Like I grew up working on old cars from the 40s, and they had like drum brakes and really basic engines and radiators, and I could understand every single part down to the chassis. And it was basically like Phillips and flathead type stuff back then. It was very simple, no covers and fancy Torx bits and doodads and electronics. But I will say the amount of towing and shit they can do in like the context for growing. You see like a lot of people like Mendo Dope, and they'll hollow a bunch of you know fertilizer or soil or amendments up the hill. And it's nice, like when you're going off-roading, if you want to get out into the country, there's a lot of I'm taking my car, which is not a truck, into all these like places out into the national forests, like 3, 4, 5 miles unpaved roads, and people are like kind of looking at me and my Tesla. I'm not in a Cybertruck. I'm in a Model S. It's like low, but they're flat enough that I can get out there into the middle of the boonies and still make it. But yeah, whatever works for whatever people, you know. I'm a fan of both gas and electric, and I think you know, whatever makes people happy. I know people get pissed off about this stuff. It's so funny to me. There's a lot of tribalism in the automotive space. Back in the day, I think it was Ford versus Chevy for a long time, and um, it always seems to change.
Oh man, I'm Michigan born, so the big three are fucking like part of our ethos, I think. So yeah. It's mostly just honestly, there are for sure there are people that are oh Ford or they pick their team, of course, just like everything for some reason that we have to do that. But it's usually though what everything pretty much agrees on is like it's American car versus foreign car, and then try to even figure out what that conversation even means because when you go down to where the parts are coming from or where it's assembled or where it's just a long debate. But yeah,
For a
that's
while, they could literally just stick the badge on it in the US, and then that would be considered a US made car. So like, and it's
exactly. They
still
put
that
the
way
emblem
for
on. They're like, all right,
Yeah,
let me put the Ford oval on there, maybe the little bow tie. All right,
this
made in
is made in
America.
America.
And when you look into like the ownership of like who owns these companies, a lot of times it changes hands, and you might be surprised that it's not just like the name that you're reading on the big banner. There's a company that owns that company that owns that company, and like Spartan's saying, it's not necessarily just made here. Although I will say, the one that I'm riding in was actually made here in Fremont, California, the first factory in Tesla had in California, and they sourced a lot of the parts here and still do. They get qualify for certain going back to like Brandon was talking about tax credits because they're made so much in the US that they more than any other vehicle that they're able to get the full tax rebates and all that stuff. But um, going back to like cutting all that shit, Elon himself advocates to not have it. He doesn't want gas subsidized or EV subsidized. Just let people fairly fight it out. The best may the best company win or whatever. But
I like it. Let's do it.
I
I
think
think that's how it should be.
there's enough demand for select EVs and regular vehicles.
Yeah, people like both.
But
If you
uh,
talk to any party, they generally like the cars they're in.
at least a few of the like I think Ford, a couple of them ended their EV production. I think because it wasn't really demand that they were seeing. And yeah, after that one winter where everybody like there was uh bad press and everybody breaking in the cold and not being able to get their shit charged,
I
that
think it was
put a
more
damper big
they were
time.
never profitable. Like if you look at
Right.
the financial side of things, like the investing into the company, they were never profitable on their EV divisions. They've made money on gas cars for so long that they try to switch over and they don't have. You would think, oh, building an electric car is the same as building a gas car, but it's a completely different process.
Well, you need
So
the infrastructure to charge the things too. They still need to work on that.
I think it's pretty solid. I mean, I've driven to Humboldt and back,
Maybe where
Arizona.
you're at.
Throughout the US, it's pretty solid, man.
I
I've
know
seen
of
there's a dude in
one,
Michigan
no,
with a
two.
Cybertruck
I
who
know
drove from Michigan to Texas and back in literally 2 days. Like 2 days down, 2 days back.
that's a tough drive. I've done that. That sucks.
He did it in a Cybertruck, bro. So the infrastructure is there. It's there's enough at least for Tesla Network, who's opened up to Ford and Rivian and all the other electric cars now. I see them. I saw F-150 charging next to me the other day, Lightning, and
Those are the Ford, dude. I'm a Ford guy, and those are terrible. That used to be my truck, man. The Lightning. I dreamed about that as a kid, but it was a souped up truck. It was a souped up F-150 at that time. It wasn't an
that it can power your house for 10 days, Spartan. Think about that.
Bro,
Power goes
that's
out.
cool if they run, but there's so many problems with those things. They're like they've lowered the price so much on that for a reason.
I think
They're
it's
not
just
selling. They're
general
not selling.
depreciation.
No, nobody's buying them, dude. Nobody's buying those
Right.
lightnings.
Who can afford 100 plus thousand dollar trucks or
Exactly.
whatever? When they were
Yeah, they're
first
getting.
dropping, it was like 120. Now they're like
Absolutely.
70, 50, 40, 30, 10 eventually.
I
Whatever,
love,
we'll give it to you for
bro. If
free.
I was gonna get an electric truck, if I could like just pick one out and I had one, I love those Rivian trucks. That's the one
Rivians are
I
sweet,
thought
man.
was sweet. Yeah.
They're really cool. So is the one goes 500 miles. They're made in Arizona. It's Lucid, the Lucid Air.
Oh,
They're
yep. I forgot
like
about that
Saudi
one.
owned, but they basically lose money on all their cars and they've only made like 10K in a year. That's like the most they ever manufactured. But they go 500 fucking miles, man. That's crazy. You could drive like LA to San Francisco without stopping. It's pretty crazy. But
That
we're
would be
way
the
off
close.
topic here, and we're coming up to the 6 o'clock hour. So I'm gonna pass it over to Spartan Grown, who we've kept you for 15 minutes longer than normal. Hopefully,
We're
we
not.
don't keep
We're not
get you
having a
late
show.
for the Michigan. Oh, okay. Well, we'll let you give your final thoughts and shout outs before we wrap it up.
Well, I just apologize for being late and then coming on, and because I was late, I didn't eat, and so thank you, Anything Grows, Emily, for bringing me some dinner there that I scarfed down. So I apologize for eating in front of you. That's another fashion faux pas, but I was hungry, man. I was hungry, and that was a long drive. So much love, much love, everybody. And I don't know. I think the best overall theme from the show is to protect home grow rights, no matter what they do with the commercial side of things. Hell, I don't care if it all burns down. I would hate to see that. I might laugh a little bit for some of them, but I got friends in the industry, so. But protect home grow above all else, and keep on growing, everybody.
There's enough space under the sun for everyone to succeed. So I think that the home grow can exist with the large commercial scale, with the craft boutique scale, like Brandon, like small 14 light type grow, and pheno hunting select really unique, cool, interesting stuff. So there's space for everybody out there, and especially once they hopefully open it up federally to allow people to have access everywhere to all these different really cool products that you're gonna hear about and see. And looking forward to all that good stuff. But with last and certainly not least of our panelists this evening, the American one.
Jack, as always, thanks for hosting. You always do a bang up job. Awesome. Spartan, I'm glad you made it. And shout out to all those who didn't make it. ATG Acres, Miss Nudie Grows, P Breeding. And yeah, Brandon was here. Shout out to Brandon and everyone in chat. Sorry I wasn't more active, but yeah, I've been doing stuff on the side over here. But it's always good to be here. And you guys know me, the American one. You can find me on IG. If you type in the American one, my little avatar will come up with the American top hat. That's me. But the full thing is underscore with underscore Keens. And yeah, we'll catch you guys either during the week or back here on Sunday. Peace out.
Always great having you, and always great hanging with this crew. I enjoy the show every single week, even though I'm still just getting over this sinus infection. Like I said, the sleep this last few days has really helped, and I'm feeling much better this week than I was last week. It's nice to be back in my own bed and living my own regular life, eating all the regular foods, and yeah, mainly getting to sleep and staying hydrated and taking care of my body more a little bit. I was eating some junk, man, traveling, seeing family, and man. Oh, when we talked about fireworks, I had to throw in a fun fact I think I forgot to say earlier, but Disney buys more explosives than anybody except for the U.S. government for the military because they shoot off so many fucking fireworks. And I will give a shout out to drone
Wow.
shows because drone shows are pretty much just as good as fireworks. It's definitely different. It's not a one-to-one replacement. They're both really fucking cool. But fireworks are way fucking worse for the environment, and they scare the shit out of dogs and all the other animals. So I'm on the drone show path there, and I think there's a lot of cool shit to be had there, and it's only going to get better. I mean, this shit's just starting, and it's already fucking really cool. So um, hopefully, more and more places get that kind of thing going on, and interesting stuff. But you can find me at Jack Greenstock on Instagram. Jack underscore Greenstock is my backup account there. More importantly, I post on X, which used to be called Twitter. Jack underscore Greenstock on Monday. Usually last week it was Tuesday because I got really busy, and I have a long day tomorrow, and hopefully I can get to it on Monday. I should be able to sometime in the afternoon, but we will see. Usually Monday or Tuesday, as early as I can possibly get it up. But you can find it there, and if you want to find any of my stuff, 50strains.com. I still have seeds and some books available, and working with my formatter. Unfortunately, they had some issues with their computer systems. They're getting a new one, a new setup, and they said that by February they should be all good to go there. I got all my stuff done for 50 strains of purple. I'm really excited for that to get going. And once he gets his stuff all set up, we'll be getting the printing process going and pre-orders and all that good stuff. So look forward to that coming in the coming months. And happy 2025, everybody. I'm glad to be back and starting off strong, 1 for 1 this year. So we're going to keep it rolling. We missed one at the end of last year, but I think we were like 48 or 49. We had a pretty much almost flawless record of doing this every week, and I enjoy it. So we're gonna keep on doing it every week, and I learn a lot every week with the show, and I enjoy all the guys' company. So thank you all for coming, chat, panel, peace and love, y'all. Catch you next time.
Rose love.
Keep growing, everybody.